A dog seeks help from FBI agents, and when they follow him, they are left paralyzed. The sun was shining brightly that morning, reflecting off the glass windows of the FBI headquarters in Washington. The hustle and bustle were intense. Agents moved back and forth, carrying folders and briefcases. Quick conversations filled the air, and the routine seemed like a well-rehearsed choreography. Everything was running smoothly, just like any other day at the agency. Then Buddy appeared. He was a medium-sized dog, his white fur marked by the grime of the streets and his body visibly thin. He walked with a clear purpose, though no one knew exactly what. It was his firm paw stopped right in front of the large glass doors of the entrance, and there he began to bark. They weren't aggressive barks, but insistent, as if he were trying to say something. No one could understand at first. No one paid much attention. Some agents glanced at him briefly and continued with their tasks, assuming he was just another stray dog, perhaps looking for food. But Buddy was not like any other dog. He didn't leave, nor did he back away. His eyes seemed to plead, carrying an urgent message he needed to deliver. Among the many who ignored the dog, a young agent named Lucy Taylor noticed something different. She was heading out for a coffee when she heard the barking, and upon looking at Buddy, she felt something hard to explain. He was staring at her, and that exchange of glances was enough to make her stop. "Hey, what are you doing here, Buddy?" Lucy murmured, approaching him slowly so as not to scare him. "Bud," he remained steady, watching her every step. His barking paused for a moment as if he understood that someone was finally paying attention. Looking closer, Lucy noticed how tired Buddy seemed. His ribs were visible under his fur, and his dirty paws showed that he had traveled a long way. With a sigh, she pulled a small bottle of water from her pocket and poured some into a cap to offer it to the dog Buddy. Hesitated for only a second before drinking eagerly. Showing how thirsty he was, as he drank, Lucy felt an unexpected connection. It was as if Buddy wasn't just any dog, but a messenger trying to convey something important. When he finished, Buddy surprised her. He gently grabbed the sleeve of Lucy's jacket with his teeth and started to tug, as if asking her to follow him. Lucy frowned, puzzled, but she couldn't ignore the appeal of this dog. "You want to show me something?" she asked. Though she knew he couldn't answer, Buddy just kept tugging, insistent, and she began to follow him. Lucy Taylor was new to the FBI team, but she wasn't the type to ignore her instincts from the moment she saw Buddy. This dog, with an intense gaze and unusual behavior, something inside her told her he wasn't there by chance. It was as if his barks and gestures formed their own language. Almost human, Buddy seemed desperate to show her something, and Lucy felt she had to listen while he tugged on her jacket sleeve with his teeth. Lucy hesitated for a moment. She looked around, hoping a colleague would notice the situation and perhaps agree with her, but all she found were quick, indifferent glances. One of them, the division leader, Michael Daniels, even frowned, irritated by the scene. "Torres, what are you doing?" he asked, his voice carrying authority and a hint of impatience. "We don't have time for stray dogs. Get back inside. We have more important things to take care of." Lucy straightened up but couldn't just ignore Buddy. He remained steady, tugging at her jacket, insisting she follow him. She knew disobeying Michael's orders wasn't something to take lightly, but the dog's behavior was different. It wasn't just hunger or fear. There was a message in Buddy's eyes, something she couldn't explain but felt was real. "Boss," Lucy said, trying to keep her voice calm but firm, "this dog isn't acting like any lost dog. He wants to show us something. Look at him." Michael crossed his arms and let out a sigh, full of exasperation. "It's just a dog, Torres. We don't have time for this. If you want to play veterinarian, do it on your own time." Lucy felt the weight of her boss's words, but something inside her refused to back down. Buddy wasn't just any dog, and she knew it. With one last look at Michael, she made a decision that could cost her dearly. "I'm sorry, boss, but I need to see where he wants to take me if I'm wrong." I'll take full responsibility before Michael could respond. Buddy was already moving down the street and Lucy followed every step she took, seemed to confirm that she was on the right path. Buddy glanced back from time to time, making sure she was still behind him. Lucy, in turn, felt a growing confidence in the bond forming between them. It wasn't just Buddy's persistence, it was something deeper. It felt as though they had been partners for a long time. Their walk led them far from the bustling FBI headquarters. With each corner they turned, the streets grew quieter, the buildings older, and the atmosphere more subdued. Lucy knew she was taking a big risk, but she felt in her heart that Buddy knew exactly what he was doing. He wasn't a lost dog, he was a guide with a clear purpose. As they moved forward, Lucy began talking to him as if he could understand her. "What do you want to show me, Buddy? Why me? There's something here that needs my attention. Isn't there, Buddy?" Of course, didn't respond with words, but his determination to press on was the only answer she needed. At that moment, Lucy realized she trusted Buddy in a way she didn't always trust her own colleagues. He hadn't spoken a word, but his communication was clear. There was something about this dog that conveyed sincerity, urgency, and above all, a willingness to help. Michael Daniels was known for his strict demeanor and refusal to tolerate distractions as the head of the FBI division in San Antonio. He had an important job to do and didn't like wasting time on what he deemed irrelevant. When he saw Lucy following a stray dog, he couldn't hide his irritation from a distance. Michael observed the scene. There was Buddy, that thin, dirty dog, pulling Lucy as if he knew exactly where he was going. And Lucy, instead of ignoring him and getting back to work, was following him as if it were the most normal thing in the world. Michael crossed his arms and sighed deeply, shaking his head. "That girl is going to get herself into trouble if she keeps this up," he muttered to Ryan Edwards, the team's technical analyst, who was standing beside him. Raphael, a young man with glasses and a serious expression, watched the scene with curiosity. "I don't know, boss," Ryan replied, adjusting his glasses. "That dog is acting strangely. He doesn't seem lost or just looking for food. He has a purpose." Michael scoffed, unconvinced. "A purpose? It's just a dog, Raphael. It doesn't even know where it is, let alone what it's doing." Despite his skeptical tone, Michael continued to watch Lucy and Buddy from a distance. Something about the situation unsettled him more than he wanted to admit. Buddy's behavior wasn't what he expected from a typical stray dog. He wasn't running or begging for food. He seemed to be guiding Lucy with a determination that didn't make sense to Michael. "She's not going to stop, is she?" Michael asked. "More to himself than to Raphael doesn't look like it," Ryan replied, with a slight smirk. He wasn't the type to get involved in field operations, but something about this scene intrigued him. Maybe we should give it a chance. Michael raised an eyebrow, surprised by the suggestion. Ryan rarely offered opinions on anything outside of technology or data analysis, but now even he seemed interested in. Buddy Michael let out a heavy sigh. He wasn't the kind of man who believed in coincidences, but the dog's behavior was starting to challenge his logic. "All right," Michael said reluctantly, "let's follow them. But if this turns out to be a waste of time, Lucy will regret making me leave my office for this." Ryan simply nodded, grabbing his backpack and following Michael as they walked a safe distance behind Lucy and Buddy. Michael couldn't help but analyze the dog. There was something about him that deeply unsettled him, but he didn't seem to be wandering aimlessly. Every step he took was deliberate, and he kept looking back at Lucy as if to make sure she was still following. As they followed Buddy through the increasingly deserted streets, Michael began to feel something he rarely experienced: doubt. What if this dog really had something important to show? What if Lucy was right to trust him? It was a possibility he wasn't ready to admit, but it was starting to creep into his mind. Meanwhile, Ryan kept watching attentively, his curiosity growing with each step. "Don't you find it curious, boss?" he asked, breaking the silence, This dog isn't lost, he's leading." Michael glanced at Raphael clearly, uncomfortable with the idea. "It's just a dog," he repeated almost like a mantra. But deep down he knew something about this situation was far from ordinary. When Buddy stopped in front of a narrow alley and looked at Lucy as if asking for permission to continue, Michael felt his skepticism begin to waver. Maybe, just maybe, this dog had more to reveal than he had imagined. Buddy moved forward with quick, purposeful steps as if he knew exactly where he was going. Lucy followed closely, feeling the weight of the decision she had made behind her. Michael and Ryan walked in silence, both reluctant, but now curious enough not to turn back. Each of them knew they were stepping out of their comfort zones, but none could predict where this path would lead them. The streets began to change. Leaving the busy city center, the group found themselves in emptier, darker areas. The alleys became narrower, the walls covered in graffiti, and the air carried a damp, metallic smell. Buddy paused occasionally, looking back to ensure Lucy was still following. Whenever she hesitated, he barked once, almost like a command to keep going. "This is starting to get weird," Ryan asked, adjusting his glasses as he glanced around. He wasn't accustomed to field operations and was beginning to feel a slight discomfort with the shifting. "Surroundings weird doesn't even begin to cover it," Michael replied, his brow furrowed. He still found it hard to accept that they had left their work behind to follow a stray dog, but there was something about Buddy, something even Michael, with all his skepticism, couldn't ignore. Buddy turned into an even narrower alley. The silence around them seemed to heighten the tension. There were no cars or pedestrians, just the sound of their footsteps echoing against the walls. Lucy felt a chill as she looked around, but she didn't think of stopping. Something inside her told her Buddy knew what he was doing. Finally, Buddy stopped in front of a large, abandoned warehouse. It was an old structure with broken windows and rust-covered walls. Overgrown weeds surrounded the building, and the entrance gate was slightly ajar, creaking in the wind. The place seemed forgotten by time, yet there was something eerie about it. "This is it?" Michael asked, his voice low, almost a whisper. He looked at the warehouse with a mix of skepticism and curiosity. Buddy barked again, running toward the gate. He stopped there, sitting down as if waiting for the group to follow. Lucy glanced at Michael, who shook his head, still reluctant if this turns out to be a waste of time. "Torres, you're going to have to explain yourself," he warned. "I'll take full responsibility," Lucy replied firmly. She approached Buddy, kneeling beside him. "Is this it, Buddy? Is this what you wanted to show us?" Buddy responded with another bark, standing up and scratching at the warehouse door. With his paws, Michael pulled out his radio and issued orders for the agents to prepare. The skepticism was still there, but now he was on high alert. Buddy's behavior couldn't be ignored. Meanwhile, Ryan surveyed the area with a keen eye, noting details that confirmed the warehouse wasn't just an abandoned building. There were fresh tire tracks and signs of recent activity nearby. "Boss, I think this place is being used for something," Ryan said, adjusting his glasses once more. "It might not be a coincidence that the dog brought us here." Michael nodded, signaling for the agents to get ready to enter. Lucy felt her heart race. She knew Buddy had guided them here for a reason, and though she didn't know what they would find, she was ready to discover it. As the agents carefully pushed open the door, Buddy stayed by Lucy's side, his posture alert as if ready to protect her. The inside of the warehouse was dark and carried a heavy smell, a mix of mold and something metallic. The beams of the flashlights cut through the darkness, revealing stacks of cages in a scene that immediately made Lucy gasp. The mystery was only beginning to unravel, and Lucy knew this was just the first step in something much larger. Buddy, with his silent determination, had brought them to the starting point of a discovery that would change everything. The interior of the warehouse was dim, filled with the oppressive smell of mildew and something even more unsettling. The agent flashlights pierced the shadows, revealing a nightmarish sight. Rusted cages were stacked to the ceiling, some containing animals so emaciated they could barely stand, dogs of all sizes with matted fur and lifeless eyes huddled inside as if hope had long abandoned them. The low whimpers and vacant stares filled the space with an overwhelming sense of despair. Lucy's heart tightened. She had never seen anything so cruel. She approached one of the cages where a group of puppies was huddled in a corner, trembling from cold. "And fear, my God," she murmured, bringing a hand to her mouth to stifle her. Emotions Buddy was by her side, his eyes fixed on the trapped dogs as if saying, "This is why I brought you here." Michael and the other agents moved deeper into the warehouse, searching every corner. Raphael, holding his tablet, pointed to a concealed panel on the wall. "Boss, it looks like there's something important here," he said, beginning to access the data. Michael nodded, still processing the scene around him. "This is bigger than I thought," he admitted, his tone more serious. Suddenly a noise from the back of the warehouse shattered the silence. It was the sound of hurried footsteps in the creak of metal. Michael raised his hand, signaling for the agents to stay alert. "Someone's here," he said, in a low, firm voice. Before they could react, 2 armed men emerged from the shadows. The warehouse, previously steeped in an atmosphere of despair, erupted into chaos. The men opened fire and the agents quickly took cover behind stacks of crates and cages. Lucy, with Buddy by her side, crouched behind a column. Her heart was racing, but she knew she had to stay calm. Buddy, however, was far from hiding as one of the men tried to maneuver around the cages, but he leapt. He sank his teeth into the man's arm with impressive force, making him cry out and drop his weapon. The distraction gave Lucy the chance to act. She quickly stood, fully disarming the man and pinning him to the ground. "Good boy," she whispered, her voice trembling as she briefly patted Buddy. Meanwhile, Michael led the agents in an intense standoff. The gunfire lasted for several minutes until finally the criminals were subdued. Silence returned to the warehouse, broken only by the faint whimpers of the dogs and the agents securing the area. Michael looked at Buddy with an expression that blended respect and disbelief. "This dog has done more today than many agents do in a lifetime," he said. Shaking his head in approval, Lucy couldn't help but smile. "He knew, boss, he knew we needed to be here." As the agents began freeing the dogs from their cages and gathering evidence, Ryan uncovered something even bigger on the panel he had accessed. He found records of an animal trafficking network operating across multiple states. "This isn't just an abandoned warehouse," he said, showing the data to Michael. "It's a central hub for something much larger." Lucy looked at Buddy now, sitting beside her, panting, but with his eyes still sharp and focused. He had led them here, faced danger, and helped save lives to her. He wasn't just a dog, he was a hero. And now, thanks to him, the FBI had the leads they needed to dismantle an entire operation. Buddy looked at Lucy, his eyes shining with something that seemed to be more than gratitude. It was as if he knew this moment was only the beginning. Together they had made a difference, and she knew that without him, none of it would have been possible. The news of what had happened in that warehouse spread quickly. It wasn't every day that you heard about a dog helping the FBI dismantle an animal trafficking ring. Buddy, the dirty and skinny stray who had shown up at the FBI's doorstep, was now seen as a true hero. His courage had not only saved lives, but also uncovered a criminal operation that had been hidden for years. A few days after the mission, a ceremony was organized at the FB1 headquarters. The sun shone brightly over the building once again, but this time the atmosphere was different. Journalists, cameras, and a small crowd had gathered to hear about the incredible work that had been done at the center of it all was Buddy, his coat now clean and shiny after a proper bath, wearing a blue bandana around his neck. He seemed to understand that this day was special. Lucy stood by his side dressed in her formal uniform. Although she was used to working behind the scenes, she felt a mix of pride and nervousness. Michael stepped onto the stage and adjusted the microphone. His voice, usually stern and serious, carried a lighter tone. This time today, we celebrate more than just the success of an operation. He began looking out at the audience before turning to Buddy. We celebrate an important lesson about courage and intuition, and we've learned that heroes can come in unexpected forms. Buddy, a dog who appeared out of nowhere, has shown more determination and bravery than many of us. The audience applauded, but Michael wasn't finished. I also want to recognize Agent Lucy Taylor. He continued, turning to her. It was her courage to trust her instincts and Buddy's that brought us here. Against all odds, she followed her heart and did what she believed was right, and because of that we are all here. Today Lucy felt her face flush as she looked down at Buddy. He seemed calm, sitting by her side, with his eyes shining. As always, Michael gestured and an agent approached with a small golden medal on a blue ribbon. Engraved on it were the words heroism and service, Buddy, four-legged hero. Michael leaned down to place the medal around Buddy's neck. The crowd erupted into applause, and Buddy, perhaps for the first time in his life, seemed to smile. He wagged his tail enthusiastically, drawing laughter from the audience. Lucy knelt beside him and whispered, "You deserve this, Buddy, you're amazing." She stroked his head as he looked back at her with the same loyal and confident gaze she had seen on the first day after the ceremony. Journalists were eager to learn more about Buddy and his story. He had become more than just a hero dog. He was a symbol of how empathy, courage, and determination could change lives. His image, adorned with the medal, spread far and wide, and he quickly became a symbol of hope for Lucy. However, Buddy wasn't just a public hero, he was her partner, the one who taught her to follow her instincts and trust in what others might overlook. And that day, as she walked home with Buddy by her side, she knew he hadn't just changed the lives of many, he had changed hers forever. The impact of the operation led by Buddy and Lucy was far greater than anyone could have imagined. After the rescue at the warehouse, investigations revealed that it wasn't just an isolated operation, but part of a vast animal trafficking network spanning multiple states. The documents and hard drive found in the warehouse contained information connecting the network to other storage facilities, transportation routes, and even international buyers. With the evidence in hand, the FBI managed to completely dismantle the organization. Several key figures were arrested, and the rescued animals were taken to shelters where they received medical care, and eventually the chance to be adopted by loving families. But the work didn't stop there. The news of the operation and Buddy's heroic role gained national attention. Newspapers, TV programs, and social media were filled with stories about the cruelty of animal trafficking and the importance of combating it. The image of Buddy with his medal and the story of how he led the FBI to the warehouse touched the hearts of millions. He became not just a hero dog, but a symbol of hope and change. With public attention focused on the case, lawmakers began to act. Bills were introduced to increase penalties for animal trafficking crimes and to improve regulations on the sale and transport of animals. The operation demonstrated to the world that animal trafficking was not just a minor issue, but a cruel industry that needed to be addressed seriously. Additionally, animal protection organizations saw a significant increase in support. People began donating money, volunteering their time, and even adopting animals in need of homes. Awareness of the problem grew impressively, and communities started monitoring suspicious activities involving animals more closely. At the FBI, the operation left a lasting impact. Michael, once skeptical, began to value the intuition of his agents and the importance of listening to different perspectives, even barking ones. Raphael, inspired by Buddy and Lucy's bravery, decided to become more involved in field missions, and Lucy, now recognized for her courage and sensitivity, continued to work to defend those who couldn't defend themselves. As for Buddy, he became a beloved figure across the country, but for Lucy, he was more than a national hero. He was her friend, her partner, and a daily reminder that even the smallest actions, like listening to a desperate dog's bark, could lead to great change. Buddy found a home filled with love, and his story became an enduring example that good can triumph as long as we have the courage to act. After everything that had happened, Buddy could finally live the life he had always deserved. There was no more cold hunger or danger. Lucy, who had felt that special connection with him from the very beginning, decided to adopt him. To her, Buddy wasn't just a hero or a symbol of courage, he was now a part of her life. That day, when Buddy entered Lucy's apartment for the first time, he seemed curious yet slightly cautious. He walked slowly, sniffing every corner, as if trying to understand that this place was now his home. The small apartment was simple but cozy, with basic furniture, a soft rug, and windows that let sunlight stream in. It was near one of those windows that Buddy chose his favorite spot. Lucy had prepared a special space for him with a soft bed, a bowl of fresh water, and new toys she had bought, but Buddy, as always, seemed more interested in being near her than in anything else. He followed her around the apartment, watching her every move, as if ensuring she wouldn't leave without him. "Welcome home, Buddy," Lucy said. Kneeling beside him, she stroked his head, and Buddy looked at her with those deep, trusting eyes. It was as if he was saying, "I'm finally safe." The days that followed were filled with discoveries. Buddy, who had once lived on the streets, was now experiencing the comfort of a worry-free life. For the first time he had food, water, and most importantly, Love Lucy made a point of taking him to the park, where he could run freely and play with other dogs. At first, Buddy seemed unsure if he was allowed to simply be happy, but little by little he began to relax, wagging his tail more often and even playing like a puppy. Lucy also felt her life change. Having Buddy by her side brought an unexpected joy. After tough days at work, she knew she could come home to his warm welcome, with Buddy wagging his tail and jumping with excitement at seeing her. He was more than just a companion. He was a constant source of comfort and inspiration. One day, as the two sat together on the couch, Lucy looked at Buddy and thought about how much his life had changed. From a thin, dirty, stray dog, he had transformed into a beloved hero. But more than that, he had found a home, a place where he was cared for and loved unconditionally. Buddy seemed to feel the same. He rested his head on Lucy's lap and sighed deeply, as if he could finally relax. It was a sound of relief from someone who knew he would never face the streets alone again. At that moment, Lucy realized she hadn't just saved Buddy, he had saved her too. He brought meaning to her life, reminding her every day that even the smallest gestures can lead to extraordinary changes. Now Buddy lived far from the dangers of the streets, surrounded by love and safety, and as Lucy looked at him, she knew they had found something many people search for their entire lives, a true home. Buddy's story became a milestone for everyone who heard it. It wasn't just about a dog or an FBI operation, but about how empathy, courage, and persistence can change lives. Buddy, a dog who once wandered the streets alone, became a symbol of something much greater, proof that even the simplest actions can have a powerful impact. Lucy often said it all began because she chose to stop and listen to a dog's bark. To many it might have seemed like something small or insignificant, but for Buddy that moment was the difference between being ignored and being heard. And because she had the courage to trust him, A great evil was dismantled and many lives, both human and animal, were saved. Buddy showed the world that everyone has something valuable to offer, no matter where they come from or how they appear. At first glance, his instinct and determination saved lives and inspired change. People who heard his story began paying more attention to their surroundings, thinking about how small acts of kindness could make all the difference. Buddy's message was clear: never underestimate the power of a simple gesture, a glance, a little attention, or an act of courage can spark a chain of events no one expects. Just his buddy found someone who believed in him. Change often begins when someone chooses to care. For Lucy, Buddy's story was more than a successful case, it was a life lesson. She learned that listening to her heart and trusting what seemed invisible to others could lead to extraordinary results. And Buddy, in turn, proved that even the most unlikely heroes can make a difference. Today, Buddy lives happily surrounded by love and security, but his legacy goes far beyond his personal story. He reminds us that courage and empathy have a transformative power. No matter how small our actions may seem, they can create an enormous impact on someone's life. Buddy teaches us that when we choose to act with kindness and courage, we can transform not only the lives of others but also our own. His story is a message of hope, reminding us that sometimes the extraordinary is hidden in the simplest details, like the bark of a dog asking for help. And so ends the inspiring story of Buddy, an unlikely hero who taught us the power of empathy, courage, and persistence. But now we want to hear from you. What did you think of this journey? Have you ever experienced or heard of a simple gesture that made all the difference? Share your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to leave a like to support the channel and help spread more messages like this one, and make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of our inspiring and meaningful content. Thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next video.